My name is Calvin Barker. I lead the auth team here at Rokt, and Dan is actually my manager for some context. So I haven't had a headshot taken in like 7 or 8 years. So the one I used to have it's not really who I am. And so the one I got actually got cropped. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that this is the full image. This is the dog Waffle. She is my light and joy. And if you enjoy a good dog-friendly office, check out Rokt. So what we're going to do is go through our use case of Edge-Terminating authentication. We go provide some introductions and quick definitions on just some core fundamentals that will help this go smoothly. Then we'll build up an analogy because I have no intention on talking on any like really deep technical details at the start. Then we will fix our analogy, followed by breaking the analogy back into some high-level technical details. Hopefully that sounds okay. So there are just going to be 3 basic definitions that you need to know for this to work out well. So identity is simply who you are, okay? Authentication simply asks, are you who you say you are? Fair enough, right? Then the next question on top of that is, are you allowed to do this, which is authorization. You'll probably see this abbreviated down to auth N and auth C or auth Z for our Sydney counterparts. That's all you need to know, all the prereqs. So what's our problem? Since I don't really want to give high level or super deep technical details, we're going to start with an analogy. In our analogy, we have a blank square called Big Dance 18 Plus Pub. And in this pub, like most pubs have, is a front door. Behind the front door is a room, and in the room is a bar. Behind the bar is a very hardworking bartender named Alice. Alice is the best cocktail bartender in the world. She can serve 2,000 cocktails per second. But what would Alice be if she did not have bargoers? Now, it gets a little complicated because this is an 18 and plus pub. And since we're in the United States, you can't actually serve alcohol to people over 21. The establishment's a little loosey-goosey on how to enforce this. So this is where Alice's colleague, Fred, comes in. Fred is Big Dan's promoter. And if you want to get a cocktail from Alice, you have to talk to the bartenders. And then Fred's going to give you a membership card. Then, because Fred doesn't want to have counterfeit membership cards being created, he writes all of his customers into this list that Alice memorizes once at the start of every shift, and she's exceedingly good at memorizing that, but she can only do it once. If she wants to rememorize this customer list, she needs to clock back out and clock back in to see who is on the customer list. Then we have one of our bar goers shows up with this membership card. I couldn't find a good card emoji, so I just used a coin. And then the person gives the cocktail order with membership card in the right hand. This is very important. Alice will only accept this membership card in the right hand. And there are some youths, they can't get the cocktail. I just got to include them to emphasize this is 18 plus pub. We have another bartender, Bob. He thinks that this model is pretty good, so he just copies the same. Has to be the right hand. Then we have Charlie, who also thinks this is a good model. There's a slight miscommunication, and this has to be in the left hand. Charlie will not accept any membership cards in the right hand, and at this point, it's kind of a whole thing to try to fix that. So that's such is life. Now, we also have Dora over here. She didn't really follow what Alice did. She has her own way. So she has this vending machine that people can walk up to that will dispense a membership card, and it also has a scanner that'll put out a little drink token that's only good for an hour. It's nice because you don't actually have to talk to Fred in this case. However, Dora doesn't really like dealing with the vending machine. And Emma is another, she's a food waitress. She does the same thing, except there's like a couple extra little, like, I don't know, she has a little swirly swirls in her line. So, shoot. Do you see the problem with this? There are lots of different ways that you have to go get your food and liquor and alcohol inside a Big Dan's ATM Plus pub. One customer cannot just go up to any of the stands with their membership card. So how do we fix this? Let's first start by hiring a bouncer named George. He'll be outside the door. And while we're at it, we'll also move the vending machine outside. No reason to have that inside, right? Now, our bar goers are going to start showing their various forms of identification. You got driver's license, passports, ID, membership cards. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day to our bartenders, but George is on it. He knows all the legal countries. He knows how to validate all the passports. He knows that some passports are fake, and he knows how to keep people from going inside. And George then gives wristbands to the bar goers. With this, we can assume that everyone who's inside has a bartender, and they are effectively authenticated for our purposes. Why did I mess this up? Okay. All right. However, the kids these days are sneaky and smart. They know that if a certain wristband has a certain color for people who are 21, they're going to go on to Amazon and order Prime Now that specific wristband color, thus foiling the entire effects of trying to prevent youths from drinking. So George has a secret wristband bank that he actually cycles through pretty quickly. So that way, even if it leaks, by the time that the wristbands show up, you can't actually use them anymore. And since he wants to communicate whatever the actual color to the bartenders, he has a TV in there just showing colors that are valid. And also while we're at it, we're just going to smooth out this food order line because we like everything looking the same. And now Fred, he actually didn't really like having to give out wristbands or membership cards, but now he gets to focus on actually drumming up business, trying to hype up Big Dan's 18 plus pub. And now all this starts to turn into a model looking like this, where a bar goer goes up to the bartender, makes a cocktail order. Alice takes a look at the wristband, validates against the TV. At this point, it will then take an authorization decision. Is this person over 21 or are they under 21? And then they can either serve the authorized person or decline the authorized person. Sound reasonable? Okay, so what does this mean? We promised some actual technical details in the description of the event, so you will get some technical details. Big Dan's 18 plus pub is not actually real, as far as I know. Instead, it is actually Rokt. And instead of our clients being humans, they also have some servers. Machines like to go into our little bar equivalent as well. And Fred is an account manager, extremely hardworking account manager. And our front door is an Istio ingress gateway that is globally distributed. Our forms of IDs are actually API key pairs. We have OAuth tokens, front-end JOTs, or JSON Web tokens. And George, instead of actually giving out wristbands, is giving out internal JSON Web tokens that we'll call IJOTs in the rest of this. And he's also signing these with a private key rather than his secret wristband bank. And George isn't real. He's actually a group of servers. I'm sorry, everyone. And so this dance is actually coordinated through pretty intricate Envoy filters. So thank you especially to Raghib and Raghav on the auth team for figuring this out, because there's not a lot of documentation on how to do this. This is brand new. So now our request to Alice starts to change. We start having a request with the IJOT that she validates against our public TV equivalent, which is our JSON Web Key Sets endpoint, makes an authorization decision. We're moving towards the open policy agent to have unified authorization decisions. And then everything collapses. There are actually no bartenders. They're all generic services. So the request goes into our Istio sidecar, makes the authorization decision, validates the JOT, then actually forwards our traffic to the services as desired. This has the added benefit that we can actually pass requests downstream without ever having to re-authenticate traffic. So here we were before. We have Big Dan's 18 plus pub. Every single bartender has something slightly different in how they make sure that they don't illegally serve someone. And at the end, we have a new service where the bartenders or services get to focus on actually resolving the requests in traffic. And since we also promised how we were using AWS, this is how we actually distribute the public endpoint keys. So we have a Lambda function. Shoot. Can we go back? Hey, Kai, can we go back? I'm sorry. Thank you. So we have a Lambda function that runs every so often as a rotation triggered by a CloudWatch event that writes our secret signing key into Secrets Manager in AWS, puts the public key into an S3 bucket served by CloudFront. So everything loads very, very, very quickly. Cool. So I know it's high level, but did anyone have any questions? Thanks, Dan.